Not to raise a serious subject of sorts, but given at the end of your presidency, the revolution in Iran was front and foremost in the news, and the hostage crisis and so forth. In the intervening years now, in a similar, I don't know if it's really similar, but you get your thoughts on the situation right now where the protests seem to be getting, in a manner similar to what happened at the time, getting to be more and more intense. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about the situation.
Not particularly. I'm just finishing my 26th book, which will be excerpts from my White House diary, and I've identified more than 30 different issues that I had to address when I was president in a very serious way that Obama is still having to address, including, you know, Cuba and the Middle East and environment and global warming and health care and things like that. But there are about 30 different things that I had to attend to that he's faced with now. And Iran is one of them, but we have two different things. I inherited the first part of the revolution when he took our hostages, and now his main concern is their apparent plans to develop nuclear weaponry.
So there's similar issues from that time then and this time now. I seem to recall, again, as a kid, I was, you know, you were the first president. I was really 4, you know, like an 11-year-old, you know.
Good choice.
Well, yeah. And but you put solar hot water heater, I think, on the White House itself.
Yeah. Well, when I went into the White House, we were importing 8.6 million barrels of oil per day from foreign countries. And I instituted a whole gamut of conservation measures. So in 5 years, we reduced that to 4.3 million barrels per day. Cut it in half. Now it's 13 million barrels per day, because all the presidents since I left have just forgotten about conservation or forgotten really about concentrating on alternate sources of energy. So we're becoming, again, excessively dependent on foreign sources of oil. Many of the sources are not very friendly to us, as you know. One of them owns a half interest in the refinery in St. Croix. Hugo Chavez is. Right. I know Hugo Chavez probably better than any other American, because the Carter Center has helped to conduct 4 elections in Venezuela and 1 referendum. So 5 times we've been there. They have probably the most advanced electoral system in the world.
We could learn from them in Florida.
We could. Yeah, we could, and all over the United States. But they have a touch screen process that's, the hardware is built in Spain, and the software in Arizona. But you touch the screen and you vote, and then when you get through voting, when you push a button, it prints out a hard copy of the way you voted. So then you can check your ballot printed to make sure it's right. Then you put your ballot in a box and it stays there. And if later, if there's any question, you can go back and get the hard copies from a representative sample and see if the voting was accurate.
Now, he's moved into a more authoritarian direction, but would you say he's still democratically elected? And,
and he's still got, I'd say right this moment, between 55 and 60% popularity in his own country. And it has been as high as 63%. So I don't think there's been any doubt. Even when they had the referendum on him, which was challenged, it was completely honest. The Carter Center, that's one of the things we do. We monitor elections around the world. We've done more than 70 elections since I left the White House. All of them troubled elections.
What's your feedback or your comment on the Karzai?
They were completely fraudulent, and everybody knows it. And the Carter Center, if the United Nations and the United States are monitoring an election, we don't get involved in it. We just go where there's kind of a vacuum and nobody else wants the food. So the last one we did was in April. That was Lebanon, and it was the first election they had. It was honest since 1972, 1972. And then the one we did before that was Uganda, and it was, Ghana. And Ghana was a perfectly honest election. There was only a half of 1% difference between the winner and the loser, but both sides accepted the results peacefully, so they have a different party in our power now. But we do about 4 or 5 elections every year.
How many on your staff? How do you dispatch folks to do this?
On our permanent staff, we have about 150 people, and we have an annual budget of about $100 million. 3/4 of our budget goes for health programs in the destitute third world, where the people are very poor. They have diseases that are no longer known in the rich world. So we are in the jungles and in the little villages in the desert, and mostly in Africa.
For so many years of your life, you have done things to help people. And I think one of the things that I really began watching, I don't know why, but it just hit me closely, was Habitat for Humanity.
We still do that.
How does the presidency, how does it, did one come before the other? Were you
No.
always doing these kinds of things?
Well, when we left the White House 4 years earlier than I had anticipated, really, the International Habitat headquarters is just 9 miles from the Plains. And a lot of their leaders came to our little church where I teach Sunday school. So we got to know about Habitat really the year as soon as I left the White House. And my wife and I are just volunteers, but we're very famous volunteers, so we've kind of brought publicity to Habitat. And it's grown tremendously since we got involved in it. We just finished our 26th year where my wife and I go with a number of volunteers and we build homes. Chip and his wife were with us this time. We went to the Mekong River Delta area. We built homes in Thailand and in China, Vietnam, Cambodia, in Laos. So we had about 4,000 volunteers who joined us. And we build homes in the United States 1 year, and we go overseas the next year, Pakistan.
Is that Habitat for Humanity overseas?
Yeah, Habitat for Humanity is in probably 140 countries in the world. And I would say most of the homes built are overseas.
So how many hours a week do you work?
Just as few as I can.
Very busy.
I make my living writing books. Really, I'm not on the lecture circuit, which is very lucrative, as you probably know. Former presidents make a fortune just giving speeches. I never chosen to do that, and I don't serve on corporate boards either. But
Can't lobby for any country.
Right, but I get president's retirement pay, and I'm a full-time professor at Emory University.
Oh.
28 years I've been a professor there. I don't have to teach classes, but I lecture in all the departments at Emory University. So I get paid professor's salary. But all my other income is from book. I'm working on my 26th book now. Yeah, next on YouTube.
That was based on your diaries when in office.
Yeah, it's extracts from my diary, and it comments quite frequently. I'll have up-to-date comments on what this meant to me then and what it means for the future and how it compares with what Obama's doing. I'm going to finish my writing part the 1st of March, and it'll be out in October.